Hello and welcome to the next edition of the BriefingsDirect Voice of the Customer podcast series. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host and moderator for this ongoing discussion on IT innovation and how it's making an impact on people's lives. Our next Internet of Things transformation discussion examines the potential impact and improvement of low-power edge computing benefits on rapidly modernizing cities. These so-called smart city initiatives are exploiting open, wide-area networking technologies to make urban life richer in services, safer, and far more responsive to residents' needs. We'll now hear about how such pervasively connected and data-driven IoT architectures are helping cities in India vastly improve the quality of life there. Here to share how communication service providers are becoming agents of digital urban transformation, we're joined by V.S. Sridhar. He's Senior Vice President and Head of the Internet of Things Business Unit at Tata Communications in Chennai area, India. Welcome, Sridhar.
Hi, thank you so much. It's a pleasure being on this call.
Thank you for being with us. We're also joined here by Nigel Upton, General Manager of the Internet of Things and Mobile Virtual Network Operators Communications Solutions Business at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. Welcome, Nigel.
Hey, thanks, Dana. Good to be here.
Let's start with you, Sridhar. Tell us a little bit about India's Smart Cities mission. What are you up to, and how are these new technologies coming to bear on improving urban quality of life?
What has happened with the recent government taking over is there is this huge articulation and the need to make smart cities a very important part of their overall play. What they believe smart cities will do is not only improve the quality of living, but also generate a lot of employment and also take the whole country forward in terms of, technologically embracing and improving the quality of life. So with that in mind, the Government of India had launched this 100 Smart Cities initiatives. And it was quite interesting because each of the smart cities which aspired to belong there had to make a plan, had to make their own strategies around how they are going to evolve and how they are going to execute it, present it, and get selected. So it was a proper selection process. So with the result, what happened is many of the cities made it, and of course some of them didn't make it. Interestingly, some of the cities which even didn't make it, developing their own plans to belong there. So I would say that there's a lot of excitement and curiosity and also action in the Smart Cities project. Admittedly, it's a slow process. It's not something that you can do at the blink of the eye. It's not that Rome was built overnight. The whole approach, how the consortiums are getting together and all are getting ironed out. But I definitely see lots of progress going around there.
Nigel, it seems that the timing for this is very auspicious, given that there are some foundational technologies that are now available at very low cost compared to the past, have much more pervasive opportunity to gather information and make a two-way street, if you will, between the edge and central administration. So tell us a little bit about why the technology evolution syncs up very well with this proof of concept opportunity for some of these cities in India.
Yeah, thanks, Dana. I'm not sure whether it's timing or luck or whatever it happens to be, but adoption of the digitization of city infrastructure and services is to some extent driven by economics. While I like to tease my colleagues in India about their sensitivity over price, the truth of the matter is that the economics of digitization and therefore IoT in smart cities needs to be at the right price, depending on where it is in the world, and India has some very specific price points to hit. That will drive the rate of adoption. And so we're very encouraged that innovation is continuing to drive price points down to the point that mass adoption can then be taken up and the benefits realized to a much more broad spectrum of the population. And working with Tata has really helped HPE understand this and continue to evolve its technology and be part of the partner ecosystem, because it does take a village to raise an IoT smart city. You need a lot of partners to make this happen. And that combination of partnership, willingness to work together, and driving the economic price points to the point of adoption has been absolutely critical in getting us to where we are today.
Great, thank you. Shrindhar, we have some very important optimization opportunities around things like street lighting, waste removal, public safety, water quality, of course, the pervasive need for traffic and parking monitoring and improvement. Tell me a little bit about how things like a low power specification, internet and network gateways, and low power WANs all, in a sense, create a new foundation technically to improve these services. How do we connect the services and the technology for an improved outcome?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you look at our human interaction to the internet, right, we have a lot of technology coming our way. We used to have 2G at one point of time, that has moved to 3G and to 4G. That is lots of bandwidth coming our way. But one thing about the human interaction is, we are okay with some disruptions here and there, and we would like to have tremendous amount of access and bandwidth speeds and so on, right? So I would say that while the human interaction of an experience is improving vastly given the different networks that are growing, on the machine side, it's going to be different. Because what do the machines finally want? They don't need oodles of bandwidth. At least I would say about 80 to 90% of all machine interactions are going to be very, very low bandwidth, and of course low power. I'll come to the low power bit in a moment, but it's going to be very low bandwidth requirement. In order to switch off a street light, how much of power, how much of bandwidth do you actually require? Or in order to sense temperature or air quality or water and water quality, how much of bandwidth do you actually require? So when you ask these questions, you get an answer that the machines don't require that much of bandwidth. More importantly, when there are millions or possibly billions of devices which are supposed to be deployed in the years to come, how are you going to service a piece of equipment lying there which is telling a street light to switch on and switch off if, let's say, the battery runs out every hour or, at the end of the day, which the current networks would drain. The point essentially I'm making is machines are different from humans in terms of interactions. When you deploy this, the machines would require low bandwidth. They are okay with low bandwidth, but more importantly, low power consumption. So the battery, once fitted in there to enable a machine to communicate, should last for years, if not for multiple years, at least a year or multiple months, so that if there is a service request to change it, it can happen. So while I draw this distinction between machines and human interactions, sometimes it could happen that heavy video streaming applications for constant security monitoring could also be a requirement. In that case, the low bandwidth, low power technology doesn't work. So in majority of the cases, when you look around, it's all about low bandwidth and low power. But more importantly is when the machine needs to communicate, there is a certain quality of service that is required. When it communicates, it has to communicate. So the network has to be available. That difference, again, I want to make, that you need to establish a network which is available, which is highly available, which consumes very little power, and which provides the right amount of bandwidth. So studies show that less than 50 kbps connectivity should suffice for majority of these requirements. Now, the machine interaction also means that you collect all of them into a platform and basically act on them. It's not about just sensing it, it's measuring it, analyzing it, and acting on it. So the whole stack, if you may, is required to be put together. It's not just connectivity alone. So right. It is a low power WAN technology, LPWAN technology, which is emerging now, which is becoming, I would say, almost like a de facto standard as more and more countries start embracing it. Now, as Tata Communications, we have embraced the LPWAN technology from the LoRa Alliance, which is a consortium of more than 400 partners who have got together and are driving the standards. And we are creating this network over the next 18 months to 2 years across India. And we have made these networks available right now in 4 cities. And by the end of the year, it will be many more cities, almost 60 cities across India will be there by end of this fiscal year, that is ending March 2018.
So, Nigel, this is very interesting that we have these various elements coming together, providers like Tata and the communications, technology providers like HPE. We have some specifications and standards. How do you see the opportunity, the market, I suppose, for a standard architecture around this sort of network with these devices and low power requirements in mind? This is a proof of concept in India, but what's the potential here for taking this even further? Is this something that has global potential?
Thanks, Dana. The global potential is undoubtedly there, and there's an additional element that we didn't talk about, which is that not all devices require the same amount of bandwidth. So we've talked about video surveillance requiring higher bandwidth. We've talked about devices that have low power bandwidth and will essentially be created once and forgotten and expected to last 5 years or 10 years. We also need to add in the aspect of security. And that really gave Hewlett-Packard and Tata the common ground of understanding that the world is made up of a variety of network requirements, some of which will be met by low-power wide area network, some of which will require more bandwidth, maybe as high as 5G as and when that rolls out. But the real advantage of being able to use a common architecture to be able to take the data from these devices is the idea of having things like a common management, common security, common data model, so that you really have the power of being able to take information, take data from all of these different types of devices and pull it into a common platform that is based on a standard. And in our case, we selected the one M2M standard as the best standard we saw available to be able to build that common data model. And that's the reason why we deployed the one M2M model within the Universal IoT platform, to get that consistency no matter what type of device, over no matter what type of network.
Well, it certainly sounds like this is an unprecedented opportunity to gather insight and analysis into areas that you just really couldn't have that opportunity to look at, to measure. So going back to the economics of this, because it's so important to keep costs low, but also perhaps to generate a return on investment or cut total operating costs, back to you, Sridhar. Have you had any opportunity through these pilot projects so far in such cities as Jamshedpur to demonstrate a return on investment, perhaps on street lighting, perhaps on quality of utilization and efficiency? Is there a strong financial incentive to do this once that initial hurdle of upfront costs is met?
Yeah, again, a great question, Dana. Unless the customer sees that there is a scope for either reducing his costs or increasing his customer experience, they're not going to buy these kinds of solutions. So if you look at how things have been progressing, I'll give you a few examples of how the costs have started constructing and playing out. One, of course, is to have devices, meeting a certain price point. We talked about how in India, we talked, and Nigel was remarking about how cost sensitive this Indian market is. But it's important, right? Once we deliver to a certain cost, we believe we can now deliver globally to scale, right? That's a very important driver. So if we build something in India, it would deliver to the global market as well. The streetlight example, let's take that specifically and see what kind of benefits it would give. When a streetlight operates for about 12 hours a day, it costs about 12 rupees, which is like 15 cents. But when you start optimizing it and say, okay, this is a streetlight that is supported currently on halogen, and you move it to LED, it brings about a little bit of cost saving, in some cases significant as well. India is going through an LED revolution, as you may have read in the newspapers. Those street lights are being converted. That's one distinct cost advantage. Now they're looking at driving the, let's say, the usage and the electricity bills even lower by optimizing it. Let's say sync it with the astronomical clock. That 6:30 in the evening it comes up, and let's say 6:30 in the morning it shuts down, linking to the astronomical clock, which you would do because now you're connected this controller to the net. The second thing that you would do is during busy hours, keep it at the brightest. Let's say between 7 and 10 you keep it at the brightest, and after that you start minimizing it. You can control it down in 10% increments to about 10%, the luminosity to be controlled to about 10%. That means the luminance, you can actually have dimmers which get it down. The point I'm making is you basically deliver intensity of light to the kind of requirement that you have. If it is busy, or if it is there's nobody on the street, or if there is a safety requirement where a sensor will trigger off a series of lights and so on. So your ability to play around with just having street light being delivered to the requirement is so high that it brings down costs. While I was telling you about 15 cents that you would spend per street light in a day or during the night time, that could be brought down to 5 cents, right? So that's the kind of advantage it would give by controlling the street lights. While I'm giving you the street light example, the business case builds up, and from a customer point of view, if he is going to save 60 to 70% just by doing this, obviously the business case stands out. So the question that you're asking is an interesting one, because each of the applications has got its own way of returning the investment back. While the optimization of resources is being done, there is also this overall, let's say, collateral or a positive one to that, to my mind, is saving the environment. So when cities approach it saying that, from an environment perspective, if I can deliver a positive result, not only I do business savings and business optimization, but I also pass on a general bigger message of a green environment. So environment and safety, I would think, are the two biggest things, appeals, if you may, of recrafting somebody's vision of implementing this, would really appeal to our customers.
Well, of course, Nigel, it's always great to put hard economic metrics on these things, but Sridhar just mentioned safety, and even when you can't measure necessarily, it's invaluable when you can bring a higher degree of safety to an urban environment. It opens up for more foot traffic, which can lead to greater economic development, which can then provide more tax revenue. And it seems to me that there's a multiplier effect when you have this sort of intelligent urban landscape that creates a cascading set of benefits. The more data, the more efficiency, the more economic development, the more revenue, the more data, and so on. So tell us a little bit about this ongoing multiplier, advantageous, virtuous adoption benefit when you go to intelligent urban environments?
Yes. It's important to note that it differs almost by country to country and almost within region to region within countries. The interesting challenge with smart cities is that often you're dealing with elected officials rather than hard-nosed businessmen who are only interested in the financial return. And it's because you're dealing with politicians and they are therefore representing the citizens in their area, either their city or their town or their region. Their priorities, are not always the same. There is quite a bit of variation of what are the particular challenges, particular social challenges, as well as the particular quality of life challenges in each of the areas that they work in. So things like personal safety are a very big deal in some regions. I'm currently in Tokyo, and here there is much more concern around quality of life and mobility with a rapidly aging population, and their challenges are somewhat different. But in India, the set of opportunities and challenges that are set out, they are that combination of economic as well as social. And if you solve them and you essentially give citizens more peace of mind, more ability to be able to move freely, to be able to take part in the economic interaction within that area, then undoubtedly that leads to greater growth. But it is worth bearing in mind that it does vary almost city by city and region by region.
Mm-hmm. Shrindhar, do you have any other input into a cascading, ongoing set of benefits when you get more data, more network opportunity? I guess I'm trying to understand for a longer-term objective that being intelligent and data-driven has an ongoing set of benefits. What might those be? How can this be a long-term data and analytics treasure trove when you think about it in terms of how to provide better urban experiences?
Yeah, then from our perspective, when we looked at the customer benefits, while there is a huge amount of, focus around the smart cities and how smart cities are benefiting from a network, if you look at the enterprise customers, they are also looking at safety, which is, an overlapping, application that a smart city would have. So the enterprise wants to provide safety to its workers, for example, in mines or in difficult terrains, environments, and so on, that they're focusing on helping them. Or a woman's safety, which is, as you know, in India is a big thing as well. That how do you provide a device which is not very obvious and gives the woman all the safety that is there. So all this in some form is providing data. One of the things that comes to my mind when you ask about how data-driven these services can be and what kind of quality it would give is if you extend your mind to some of the customer services devices, there could be applications or let's say a housewife could have a multiple button kind of a device where she can order a service. Depending on the service she presses and an aggregate of, let's say, households across India, you would know the trends and directions of a certain service. And this, mind you, it could be like as simple as a three button device which says service A, service B, service C. And it could be a consumer service that gets extended to a particular household that we sell it as a service. So you could get lots of trends and patterns that are emerging from that. And we believe that the customer experience is going to change because no longer is the customer going to retain in his mind what kind of phone numbers or your, let's say, apps and all to order. you give them the convenience of just a button for a service. That immediately comes to my mind. The second one is in terms of feedback, right? Use the same 3-button service to say how well have you used utility, or rather what kind of quality of service that you rate multiple utilities that you're using. And there is a toilet revolution in India. For example, you put these buttons out there, they will tell you at any given point of time what's the user satisfaction and so on. So these are all data that is getting gathered, and I believe that while it is early days for us to go on and put out analytics and give you distinct kind of benefits that are there, but some of the things that customers are already looking at is which geographies, which segments, who are my biggest profile of customers using this and so on. That kind of information is going to come out very, very distinctly. While the smart cities is all about, I would say, experience, the enterprises are now looking at the data that is coming out and seeing how they can use it to better segment and provide better customer experience, which would obviously mean both adding to their top line as well as helping them manage their bottom line. So it's beyond safety. Right. It's getting into the customer experience realm of managing customer experience.
Yeah, it certainly seems that in a certain period of time that urban planning could be very more precise and responsive. And let's look, though, at how governments who might learn about these technologies could start to take steps to actually implement them. So, Nigel, from a go-to-market perspective or a go-to-cities perspective, these are very complex undertakings, lots of moving parts, lots of different technologies and standards. Tell me a little bit more about how Tata and HPE are coming together, along with other service providers, PointNext, for example, involved. How do you put this into a package that can then actually be managed and put in place? How do we make this appealing, not only in terms of its potential, but being actionable as well when it comes to different cities and regions?
Yeah, thanks, Dana. The journey has, this is not a fresh journey that we started on. The concept of smart cities has been around for a while, and various governments around the world have pumped money into their cities over an extended period of time. As usual, these things always take more time than you think. And I do not believe today that we have a technology challenge on our hands. We have much more a business model challenge of being able to deploy technology to be able to bring benefit to citizens. I think that is finally getting to the point where it is much better understood, where innovation at the device level, whether it's streetlights, whether it's ability to measure water quality, sound quality, the humidity, all of these sensors that we have available to us now, there has been very rapid innovation at that device level and at the economics of how to produce them at a price that will enable widespread deployment. All that has been happening very rapidly over the last few years, getting us to the point where we now have the infrastructure in place, we have the price points in place, and we have IoT becoming mainstream enough that it is entering into the manufacturing process of all sorts of different devices. As I said, ranging from streetlights to personal security devices through to track and trace devices that are built into the manufacturing process of goods. That is now reaching mainstream, and we're now able to take advantage of this massive data that's now being produced to be able to produce ever more efficient and smarter cities and make them safer places for our citizens.
Well, very good. Last word to you, Sridhar. If people wanted to learn more about the pilot proof of concept that you're doing there at Jamshedpur and other cities, the Smart City mission, where might they go? Are there any resources? How would you provide more information to those interested in pursuing more of these technologies?
Yeah, we're very happy to help them look at the POCs that we are doing. I would classify the POCs that we are doing is as far as safety is concerned. We talked of energy management is one big bucket that is there. Then the customer service I spoke about. The fourth one I would say is more on the utility side. Gas and water are two big applications that customers are looking at these POCs very seriously. And there is one interesting application that one customer wanted for pest control, where he wanted his mouse traps to be having sensors so that they will at any point of time know if there is a rat trapped at all, which I thought was a very interesting thing. So those are multiple of the streams that we have done in. We have done multiple POCs. We'll be very happy as Tata Communications team. HP folks anyway are in touch with us. You could write to us, me in particular, for some period of time. We're also putting it on our website. We have marketing collateral which is coming in describing this. We will do some of the joint workshops with HP as well. So there are multiple ways to reach us, and one of the best ways obviously is through our website, tatacommunications.com. And of course, we are always there to provide more support and help. And we believe that we can't do it all alone. It's about the ecosystem, getting to know and getting to work on it. And while we have partners like HP on the platform level, we also have partners like Semtech who have established a center of excellence in Mumbai along with us. So the access to the ecosystem from HP side as well as our other partners are available, and we are happy to work and co-create the solutions going forward.
Well, very good. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We've been discussing how smart city initiatives are exploiting wide open area networks and wide area low cost and low energy network technologies to make urban life richer in services, safer, and then far more responsive to residents' needs. And we've learned how pervasively connected and data-driven IoT architectures from a consortium and ecosystems of providers like HPE and Tata are helping cities in India and elsewhere vastly improve their quality of life. So please join me in thanking our guests. We've been here with V.S. Sridhar. He's the Senior Vice President and Head of the Internet of Things Business Unit at Tata Communications. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dana. That was wonderful talking to you and sharing whatever we can from our perspective. It was wonderful talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're also been joined, and we thank Nigel Upton, General Manager of the Internet of Things and Mobile Virtual Network Operations Communications Solutions Business at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you, Dana, and a big thank you to Sridhar for all the support, and looking forward to a very, very long and fruitful relationship between our two companies.
Yes, and of course, I'd like to thank our audience as well for joining us for this BriefingsDirect Voice of the Customer IoT Transformation discussion. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Interarbor Solutions, your host and moderator for this ongoing series of HPE-sponsored discussions. Thanks again for listening, and do come back next time.